foreign policy, let me give you a quotation from yourself. Quote, Newt Gingrich, quote, "We face a radical Islamist threat that is much deeper and much more pervasive than anyone in our culture wants to talk about." Close quote.
Well, I think that's true. I think it's objectively true. It's true whether you're in Iraq or you're in Iran or Afghanistan or Pakistan or the Philippines or Thailand or Malaya. Just look at places where bombs go off. Look at the range of organized efforts there are to kill people, and recognize that some of it is international conspiracy like Al-Qaeda, some of it is state-sponsored terrorism like Iran, some of it is a strange mixture like Hezbollah and Hamas. But we have not come to grips with how dangerous radical Islamists are and how widespread they are. Nor have we come to grips. This is why we need an American energy policy, so that we are independent of the Middle East and we are not sending money to our enemies. We've been afraid to come to grips with the degree to which the Saudis, for example, are the largest funders of schools called madrasas that teach hatred. And we don't want to collide head on with the Saudis because we need their oil too much, and therefore we pull our punches. But the fact is, we should have energy independence, and we should say to the Saudis that we consider it an extraordinarily unfriendly act to be financing these kinds of hate institutions that are very anti-Western and very anti-Christian and anti-Jewish.
So President Gingrich gets tough on the Saudis. What else does he do? What are the other implications of seeing the Islamic threat seriously?
There are implications, first of all, that we need to design a grand strategy, that we don't have one. There are implications that we want to actively, through covert means, seek to replace the current Iranian dictatorship. There are indications that we want to rebuild our intelligence capabilities. Today, the intelligence community is so crippled by the Congress that we really don't do very much spying. We mostly rely on people, the Egyptians, the Jordanians, the Iranians, the Iraqis, the Pakistanis, to give us intelligence information. This is a very bad model.
As Stalin failed to live up to the agreements at Yalta to hold free elections in Eastern Europe, as it becomes clear that he's an occupying force in Eastern Europe, George Kennan, a staffer in the Moscow embassy, writes what's the famous long telegram. And within 2 years, he does this within 2 years of the end of the Second World War, and outlines what becomes the policy of containment that remains in place for the next 4.5 decades, essentially. Has the long telegram been written yet?
No. One of the greatest problems we have right now is that the Obama administration won't even use the words radical Islamist. I mean, it is impossible to think coherently about Obama's foreign policy. Many years ago, George Orwell, the author of 1984, wrote an essay on politics in the English language. And he said you can tell when somebody has really bad ideas because they can't explain them. The bad language and bad ideas go together. And I would say that the very fact that the Obama administration has tried to outlaw any honest description of radical Islamism tells you how far from reality they are and how dangerous their foreign policy is.
Iran. Last month, the New York Times ran a very heavily reported article in the magazine, Sunday magazine, quote, titled, "Will Israel Attack Iran?" And this article quoted one highly placed Israeli official after another, including the defense minister, Ehud Barak, former prime minister of Israel, as saying that we are now down to a few months, not a few years, but a few months before Iran will develop a nuclear capability. Does that sound right to you? Are we doing what we need to? Are we, well, I'll get to Israel in a moment, are we doing what we need to?
Well, I can't tell you if it sounds right because I don't have the kind of intelligence information that the Israeli defense minister has. And of course, he was both prime minister and he was chief of staff of the Israeli Defense Force, so he is very knowledgeable. What I would say is that the policy of the United States should be to replace the Ahmadinejad dictatorship. We should follow the policies of President Reagan, Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, and Pope John Paul II, who successfully unraveled the entire Soviet empire without a general war. And we should be bringing every possible covert means to bear to arouse and organize and help dissidents across Iran until they, in fact, break the back of the dictatorship. We should be bringing pressure to bear economically. We should use force as a last, not a first resort.
But you're willing to use it?
Absolutely, and I'm absolutely willing to respect the right of the Israelis. If you're an Israeli prime minister, and you remember that in the World War II, people did not listen to Hitler, and as a result, 7 million Jews were killed. and you realize that 3 nuclear weapons placed properly is a second Holocaust and will kill another 6 or 7 million Jews. I think you have to, as a matter of your obligation to your country, be prepared to stop the Iranians from getting nuclear weapons. And if that means you stop them by using your own force to break up their system, then you have to do it. And I don't think any American can second guess the Israelis in their own self-defense. We can run much bigger risk. We're a continent-wide country. They are a very small country, very heavily concentrated. They're within missile range of Iran, and I don't think that they can take any risk with their survival.
China. The vice president of China, whose name I can't pronounce, Xi Jinping, maybe, and the likely president of China next year is visiting the United States. For more than a decade, China has experienced double-digit growth rates, lifted some 500 million people out of poverty, and I think you would agree has expanded at least the economic sphere of freedom. We have that on the one hand. On the other hand, as prominent Asian scholar William Kirby at Harvard has observed, if Mao were to return today, he would recognize all the instruments of power. The party remains in place, the various bodies in the party remain in place, the communist ideology remains unchanged. What do we do with China? Is this a friend, a friendly adversary?
First of all, I don't agree with the last thing you said.
You're not going to buy that?
Well,
okay.
Yes, it's an authoritarian.
You have to rewrite the question.
Well, no, I mean it's an authoritarian dictatorship, and it's certainly a place you and I wouldn't want to live in terms of being under Chinese control, and it certainly is a Chinese nationalist attitude towards the world. So they'd like to be once again the Middle Kingdom.
Not Marxist true believers.
There's Mao would be appalled at the degree to which they now have capitalism, they have corruption, they have differentiations in wealth. I mean, remember the last phase of Mao is wearing uniforms and everybody looking like they have pajamas on and trying desperately to get to conformity. I mean, it was really a pretty bizarre place.
We've gone from bicycles to Rolls Royces.
Yeah, I mean, and we've gone to a pretty high level of freedom of knowledge, if not freedom of action in politics. But I think we have to do a couple things. First of all, we have to get our own act together. We have to rebuild our manufacturing base. We have to rebuild our educational system. We have to be capable of balancing our budget. We have to pay down the bonds that the Chinese currently own. And when I realize that the Chinese have probably $1 trillion in U.S. bonds, I find that very disturbing. And we don't want any United States which is indebted to China. We want the United States, which is the leading country in the world, and there's no circumstance in the next 50 or 75 years where I'd want my children and grandchildren to be in a world dominated by China. I think we're much safer to be in a world where the United States is still the leading country, where freedom matters, and where the rule of law really matters.
You mentioned fixing the educational system as one component of getting our own act in order. What does a president do? What can a president do to fix the educational system?
Send it back home. I mean, the effort, and I would say this is true of Sacramento as it is of Washington, the effort to create bureaucracies of learning who then issue instructions so that little bureaucrats of learning can lead each classroom is a disaster. Teaching is an inherently missionary behavior. You have to have somebody who's passionate. They have to care about the children. They have to care about learning. They have to raise them somehow above the norm. And every time we try to bureaucratize it, we kill the very spirit of learning and we kill the very spirit of teaching, and the end result is a net loss.